Thank you. Can everybody hear us? Okay, Dan, can you hear us?
Can you hear me? Good, good.
Yes.
Yeah, let's go. We've got 3 people. I'll get up.
But I guess there could be people who watch this after the fact. So, hello, I'm Emily Mitchell. I'm the Assistant Library Director here in Penfield.
And hi, I'm Nicole Westerdahl. I'm a research, instruction, and outreach librarian here at Penfield.
And we are talking about a library guide that the two of us have worked on in different parts, dealing with AI at SUNY Oswego and citing AI. And
Yeah, sounds good.
let's do that. So
Shares at more, shares at the very top.
So initially, the presentation was talking about AI for libraries and help. Because libraries love to help with questions about AI. And finding information, organizing information, helping people, but kind of well. So backstory before I talk, well, we're gonna go through this guide. Backstory with this guide is that back, I don't know, spring and summer, everyone has been talking about AI. Everyone was talking about AI then, and everything, it felt like everything was happening all at once with AI, and SUNY was doing things, and Oswego was talking about doing things, and the state of New York was doing things. And I at least just felt like I was being bombarded with information about AI all the time, but then I could never find it again in my time. Also, I was hearing all these other stories in addition to like things about AI and about like you can do this fabulous thing with AI, but also stories about like, hey, here are some things that we should be thinking about AI and questioning and engaging with. And so I was using that one particular signal. And I was decided that I should do something about that. Also trying to keep track of like who do you even talk to on campus, who's doing what with AI. We do have an official campus AI website now, which is fantastic. But at that point, I was just trying to get things in one place so that I and hopefully others can have a handle on what was going on. So that's where this came from. Similarly, back in spring semester, I think that was about the time that the library really started getting questions from students. Maybe a little earlier.
It was earlier than that.
So we were already getting questions from students, sometimes about how to cite AI, sometimes about, you know, here are these sources that I'd like you to help me find. But they had generated those sources with an AI tool and then didn't actually exist. They were very plausible kind of information. So we were just thinking about like the needs of campus, faculty, our needs, and it felt like it was time to do something. So that's the why behind the library's AI. And having given you all of that, we should actually take a look at this thing. And so I've got up here on the screen a bunch of different ways to get to it. For everyone who's watching this on the screen, what might be it. But you can also navigate there, you can go to the library page. So you can actually do that. And when you go to the library page, you navigate. And you can go to the library. That. Because right now our AI guide is really targeting pockets of that. I think it has some content. But generative AI, this is the guys that I've been talking about. And if you Google something like SUNY Oswego Library AI, and you can see we start off with the SUNY Oswego context, because again, when I made this, it was very much like the president had said we're going to be an AI campus, but at that point, we didn't know what that meant. And finding where the so now we do have an artificial intelligence and the statement about what it means for us to be an AI campus. So if you want to link to the official AI page, do that here, but also the complete version of what does it mean for us to be an AI campus here. I have also been collecting events and opportunities on campus because there have just been so many, and I find them in my email and then I lose them again, and then someone asks me and I say, oh yeah, I think that was the thing. But of course I can never find them. So I'm trying to keep up with events and opportunities and the here. I'm trying to keep up with SUNY Oswego specific pages, so we got the official SUNY Oswego AI page, developed for the page, which is fantastic. And last time I looked, they've been listing like breakout sessions and other local recordings. So if you want to know what people at Oswego are talking about, specifically in regards to AI, that's really useful. The instructional designers have a whole page with lots of information about, you know, integrating AI into your classes, things to consider and how to connect with activities. Lots of good stuff there. Where services it has a page that I recently found about using artificial intelligence to like caregiving. So lots of things. I do also want to point out the library does have an evaluation information literacy rubric for AI tools, which is alarming, and I'm actually going to put on this another voice comment because in the institutional repository and personal work. But it's going to become relevant as I explore down stories about AI, just again, like what is even happening with AI? Trying to pass that and hopefully and then we get to the student context for all of it. And there's a lot more to the student context than just this here on the board. But the fact is what's all coming from this step. We have additional language in the generative requirement for information literacy, specifically calling out AI as a place that students need to understand the ethical dimensions of information use, creation, and dissemination. And then down below in the guidance, if you read this, they're like, yeah, actually, for all three of these learning outcomes, we need to be addressing emerging technologies such as AI. Like the kind of opportunity on it. And be like, okay, library has a rubric. The library's evaluated rubric for information literacy rubric for AI tools. I would tend to assume it would take a long time and a lot of work. But if you yourself would like help in learning how you approach AI tools, which one you might want to use and what. And if you would like help sort of bringing that in information with your life, I think it might be helpful as people are thinking about how does it make sense to incorporate AI into what you do in class. And so you can see lots of questions. But this is compatible with your information needs. Being transparent about what they're doing with the data. And you can sort through them and decide how important something is for me. It's not like a straightforward, like, yes, no, clear cut thing. Never that. It's always a balancing act to figure out what makes sense, what it is going to be okay, ethically, what is going to be okay, with privacy, with all kinds of things. Again, that's just the now you can really see what they like to do. If you give it a curriculum, carrying on with back to the library's guide, talking about context, because SUNY Oswego in the context of students, which is in the context of New York. So we have all kinds of things about responsible AI and students. Kids know about videos. Scroll down, you've got things that New York State Office of Information Technology Services put out about AI.
Very good.
They put out a statement which TLDR, like, don't put your sensitive data into that was my takeaway from that. Obviously, the libraries if they collect some news from the governor or the chancellor talking about AI, it's a good place to be aware of. And then there's a section at the bottom of this context page that gets into US and globally. This is stuff that probably is easier for people to think of and find, but as long as I was collecting information about a context, I figured I would put it in there. So lots of stuff about like AI and what rules and what context applies to but you'll remember that for competency is talking about like understanding. I think that's a good relation with all of the stuff. I actually have a whole page here. So we use generative AI, focusing on a lot of the sort of ethical information that go into generative AI. I pulled out stuff I assumed the faculty and staff at the top. I know I'm going to tell them more. And you'll see I do have just resources on the guide. So any of you, any time, tell me what I'm going to do. But I have pulled out specifically, a lot of concerns around bias, because the data that AI are trained on comes from humans and humans have biases. Interpretation of that. But all kinds of things. The mind configuration the one that maybe the artist really see all the stuff there. Concerns around privacy. If you know anyone who plays Pokemon Go, they're just like, surprisingly, using all this user data to train our AI navigation. So, what's a good on? So if you look at these, you'll see I'm pulling from the most reputable resources. My thinking was I want to introduce people to these topics, and then faculty members on the community can go out and go more in depth into time. Or if you aren't so confident knowing everything you have to know, come talk to a librarian, and many of us would love to get into this area and go out and find some points all over the place. Copyright concerns, that's our whole section. Find more copyright, but more environmental concerns and consumption of resources. That one used to be hard to find things about, and now I think that it's very hard to find. Concerns around learning, and then that's a big one. The AI is doing all the thinking, and students will learn and what that we can do. And then I know this one, information and misinformation. I'm reading lots of stuff about that, for the election, especially. And I have a catch-all at the bottom for the sort of other things that didn't fit a specific category. And some of these I may need to go through them again and there are enough of that to do category. And hearing more and more people talking about the fact that you kind of get rid of the hallucinations and the things that generative AI can do. That's how it works. It's been tough for that way to so lots of stuff here to introduce anyone, some of that. I do have a page about how to use generative AI. We need to know how to use it. We need to end up cheating one of these things. Again, I've been trying to pull out stuff created by the students who wrote books. But I have a section for integrated courses, a section for writing help, because writing help. And then we come to a very important tab. I think it's probably the most popular, the tab. Something that I want to call it. We keep exciting about. And for that, I'm going to hand you off to Nicole. Nicole is all the work to be done and did a fabulous job.
Hi, I'm back. If you don't know this about me, I am a huge citation nerd. I love citations. I love making citations. I love teaching people how to make citations. They are one of my favorite things, plus issues of citational justice and things like that. So one of the first things I thought of when AI came on the scene back in 2022 was how do we cite it? And at the time, we didn't, and there was a lot of turmoil in the field around that. And eventually that settled into we should have people cite it because otherwise it gets into questions of plagiarism, even though can you plagiarize AI? Maybe, maybe not. And I know there are also concerns about the fact that you can't maintain a track record of everything AI says to you. So what's the value in the citation in that way? So lots of questions. How you approach AI in your classes can vary, which is why this citation guide, which was originally developed for students, starts with ask your instructor. So you might decide you don't want folks to cite AI, but to share information about their usage in some other way. Maybe that's in an author's notes document in an English 102 class, a methodology or some other approach in other classes. I am happy to talk to you further about that. Always excited to talk about citation, even if it's not in the traditional citation. The other question that we get a lot of is why can't the AI tool produce the citation for me? Some of them will refuse to do it and tell you they don't know how or are unable to do it. Some of them will try to do it and fail miserably because they haven't been trained on how to do it. Some of them are starting to figure out how to integrate it, but it's just not reliable from tool to tool or even within a tool itself. So I generally recommend not asking AI to make your citations for you. The other section next, I'm going to scroll down a bit here. The center here is AI citation tips. So one of the things I ran into while developing this guide is that AI makes it really hard to cite. The various citation styles ask you to include things like the name of the creator of the AI or the version or update number of the AI. And it turns out AI doesn't really want you to know those things. I have lots of thoughts, but now is not the time or the place. So I've also included some tips on how to actually find that information, whether that's using the AI tool in itself, for example, by looking at the bottom of the chat box, looking for a question mark icon. Those are usually places you can find when you're using the tool. A lot of AI tools, if you ask them what model or version they are, will tell you that they don't have the access to that information, which is just great. More broadly, if you're navigating around the AI tool website, there might be a page labeled release notes, news, announcements. A lot of times when they launch a new version, that information will be there. That's also some place where creator information is listed sometimes. For using on a mobile device, the tool's app settings is a way to go. And also good old Google. So you can Google the name of an AI tool, plus words like current version or creator, and that will usually take you to a page that can tell you that, although you want to make sure that's a reliable page as well. And then we encourage folks to contact department librarians to help with that. I'm also happy to help with that myself. Gonna keep scrolling down. So here are the sample citations that I have set up. We've done these for the most common citation styles like APA, Chicago, and MLA. Other citation styles may have different ways that they prefer people to do this. They might also not have any guidance at all or decide that they don't believe that citing AI is a valid idea. So lots of variety, but we focus on the ones that are most commonly, most broadly used. Interestingly, once these citation formats were developed, they've tended to stay pretty much the same since then. I thought there would be more rapid evolution of the citation, but I was wrong. That might have been wishful thinking on my part. But I include a template that describes how to create the citation and then examples so that folks can see exactly what it looks like in practice. See, in this APA example, I have the creator of the AI tool. So it's another one of those things that would be hard to find. The date the version was released in year format, the name of the tool, the easy part, and then the version information. So that date and the version information is some of the tricky information to find. And then you do have to label it as a large language model if that's what you're working with. If you're working with like a image diffusion model, you would specify that instead. If you aren't sure what to use, Google is your friend. And then just a link to the tool. Note, it's not a link to your actual chats. There is no obligation within APA or any of these citation styles to preserve your conversation in any way, which is good because usually that takes a lot of extra steps. I'll just keep slowing down or scrolling down. For all of these, I also link directly to the style manual's explanation of how to do it and why they've chosen this, or not so much the why. But unless you're like me, I wouldn't recommend reading them unless you really like the citation. One thing that's interesting about Chicago style is they do not consider AI to be a reference. So you can, when you refer to it, you only refer to it in text in the same way you would only refer to a personal communication in text. And the reason they do that is that if you don't have access to it, it is not a reference. So it does need to be acknowledged, but it doesn't actually count as a reference because other people can't look at it. So I've again provided an example. In this case, you don't have to specify what type of tool it is, just that you did use it. And you include the text of the prompt you use. So even though that won't produce the same result, it could produce similar results, and it gives you a little more transparency into the process. And then there's another version of Chicago style. And at the bottom is MLA, which kind of combines elements of APA in Chicago. So MLA provides the most complete citation requirement where you include both the prompt, the tool you use, the version information, and a link to the tool URL. So variation in all of them, strengths and weaknesses in all of them. But that is how you cite AI, and you can feel free to come back and refer to this. I do keep an eye on it to update and make changes, but updates have not been forthcoming. So, and I am so happy to talk about other ways to cite AI or think about AI or just citations in general. Please talk to me about. Let me scroll back up. And I'll hand it back over to Emily.
So, yeah, the last remaining sort of presentation about the cite series, it's talking about and we can share resources, recommend something that you can go on the site. It does require you to log in, but you need to go through things. If you're thinking, maybe why. So I would love to hear, like, did I miss reading something story, or did I miss like some, important new policies that we have to get? Or if you publish something about that, I would love to get a link to your work. What I wanted to so again, if we wanted to get to the guide, those are the ways to get to the guide. Your approval work, use the library AI, something like that, and Google should work. And the way I went to is Google Library homepage, Google Library menu, faculty and staff page, go down to So Nicole and I were hoping that you all might be something because it's all very well us putting together these resources, but unless we actually do them, it's hard to know if this is actually helpful. It's also good for us to hear other ways we might be able to help. So we created this guide, sure, but it's what you really need, librarians to come to your classes and stuff like that. So we've got questions for you. We're gonna go questions.
I think we can just share them all and think together. So our questions are, how are you thinking of incorporating AI into your courses? What else would you like to see on the AI guide? And what else can libraries do to support you with AI? Yeah. Uh-huh. Mhm.
Because I was saying something about using ChatGPT and we charge ChatGPT, is that serious?
Okay, so
Because they feel enough of that.
I will take all the questions. So ChatGPT does create citations. They are frequently either wrong or fake. They are just making things up. Students do use these citations when they're using ChatGPT, and the ones who are doing their due diligence will frequently contact us in the library and say, "Can you help me find these resources?" And say, "These aren't real. Did you happen to use AI, or how did you get these?" And then we have a nice talk about information literacy and AI and how you cannot rely on it for sources. At least not with the large language models. There are research-based AI tools out there of varying levels of helpfulness and accuracy, but ChatGPT is not one of them. I don't, in terms of your second question, oh, and to add to that, even if ChatGPT is producing real citations, always double check your citations. The number of people who have heard me say always double check your citations multiple times, or pretty much anyone who's ever had a class or a session with me. Because there are a lot of tools to help you create citations, but all technology is inherently not reliable in that regard. So, and also it's only as good as the data going in. So garbage in, garbage out. The question on plagiarism varies according to whoever is enforcing it. So I cannot say something is plagiarism or not without context. So if you didn't specify whether ChatGPT is plagiarism or not, then there's no answer to that question. Oh, so the first question was, if ChatGPT produces sources, are students using those? And the second question was, if I was teaching a class and I did not specify whether you could use ChatGPT or not, and someone did cite it, would that automatically be considered plagiarism? And I guess the answer to that is no, because it has to be specified as plagiarism. And a lot of journals and publishers are specifying what they consider the usage of AI to be, so that they can enforce those policies. And hopefully SUNY Oswego is in the process of also establishing those policies. And so if you are an instructor, make sure you're telling your students what you want them to do and not do with AI.
I know that people are being strongly encouraged to have students in the same class looking forward about what acceptable use of AI in the class. So I think that will be an important that comes in that side.
Or what would you like to see us do?
At the bottom, get that.
Sure.
Well, yeah, it's very interesting.
Let's give you the participant window open too.
So I guess I can add with it fit. I have been talking to librarians a lot about AI, about the new, the updates to the generative competencies for information literacy. We haven't heard the librarians say, oh, yeah, library. And I know that when I, as a librarian, am asked to come in and have the top session, that you really try to be information literacy because you're finding sources, you're talking about what makes a good source. We're probably talking about citing sources, doing things ethically. And I think that overall our librarians can be happy to integrate discussions of AI into that. We have actually, a number of us have taught class sessions integrating a whole AI activities using ChatGPT to help us generate scripts. You know, help students think about synonyms and different ways to get at same idea, but in ways that are like life. So I think probably any of the libraries would be happy to do things like that. I will say that if that is the first time your student has seen ChatGPT or a similar generative AI tool, probably not going to work out for the library section because we'll have to spend the whole time teaching them that and not talking about anything related to the library, right? So in order for the library, for a librarian to incorporate these tools into a library instruction session, probably you already need to have been integrating them in various ways throughout the semester. So that students know how to get there. They know how to log in into it. They know roughly what a prompt is. They know, you know, things about like, oh, I didn't get what I wanted with my prompt. Maybe I could rephrase that. So having that like baseline understanding of the tool before we then try to use the tool to address research content. Very, very effective.
It's also okay if there are not any ideas or questions. Yeah.
In which case, thank you all so much for coming. I do hope that the library schedule AI is helpful to you. I think the citation part is definitely going to be. That is also listed if you have students using the citations page on the library website. You can get to the AI citation. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for your presentation. I'll go ahead and close it out.
Thank you.
Thank you.